An ordinary person's innocence is their personal sin. 913 years ago, when there were gods, a bloody demon from the east led his troops to the land of the Yun clan. The clan fought to the death, but in the end it was all destroyed, and their blood covered the east. Yun Chan, the son of the clan head, goes to the mortal world under the protection of his servants. One day the name of this clan will regain its power and strength. In the eastern realm of gods, there was a great Yun clan. Legend said that they protected an ancient treasure for generations. The ability of this treasure is to pass any problems and trials. Many forces from different parts of the world gathered there to steal the treasure, and no one could even guess that the clan would have to fight for it. This was the reason for the extinction of the entire clan. A demonic army began to attack the city. They used fire arrows and various types of weapons. The servant ran to the master and told him that a demonic army had attacked their city and were destroying everything in their path. They knew that a great treasure was in this city, and the commander promised that the first person who could get it would receive a very good reward. But before entering the city there was an explosion that blinded their army. They began to resist, and the forces of the city stood up to protect their homes, families, and children. The battle for life began, but then something terrible appeared from the sky. It was a huge demon who said that they were as weak as they were thousands of years ago. He could destroy an entire city with one hand. His powers were very powerful. The demon was preparing an attack to clear the way to the treasure. And so he activated his magical powers and carried out the attack for which he had been preparing for so long. He paralyzed all the fighters who stood up to defend their city. The master of the city watched because his strength was not enough to face such a powerful enemy. While he was standing still, one of the soldiers of the demonic army came up to him and attacked him. He pierced through the host's body with his sword. It was impossible to survive such a blow. After 10,000 years, the wheel of fortune began to turn again. After this battle, not a single member of the clan remained in the eastern god realm. One girl asked her father to let her go because she also wants to fight. She argued that everyone is now on the battlefield and she has no right to hide here. Another girl asked what she hoped for. They had no fighting skills, and because of that they were unable to take part in the battle. She begged the elder to let her go. One of the girls wondered if their parents and uncles would even be able to defeat this demonic army. He asked not to worry, it was none of their business. Everything will be fine with the elders and they will defeat evil. Good always wins. It will win this time too. The elder felt that demonic energy was entering their vault. He created a shield for the children with the help of his energy and magic. But he could not survive and was killed with a knife. The children were shocked and very scared. Now they were even more worried about their city. He ordered them to run because they were running out of time. He used the last of his energy to save the children. He said that now the elders would no longer be able to take care of them, and added that they were the last hope of their clan and family. The fire of their clan was not yet extinguished, and he was sure that the master and the rest would be able to be reborn. And the name of their clan would still resound over the eastern lands. The girl did not understand where she was and where she ended up after the master's spell. The memory of the family and its immortal blood will never die. Chan Kong, when their souls leave their bodies, he asked them not to separate and stay with Che Lin in protecting her for his sake. She did not understand who it was and who Che Lin was. The girl was in a panic. It's as if she got into a portal in which there are no boundaries, like in the universe. Her body was flying in this space like astronauts in space. Various memories were flying around her, maybe even not only her personal ones. She moved clearly upwards. The wind itself pulled her there. The guard was closely guarding the territory of their camp. The boy woke up and realized that he had another nightmare. He wondered if this dream was real. There was his mother, father, and even his uncle. And a beautiful bride. He tried to remember her name because he really liked her, but it was in vain. He remembered absolutely nothing. The weather was beautiful the other day. The birds were sitting on a tree and singing their magical songs. The wheels of the chariot created sparks when they ran over the stones. An important person was riding in it, accompanied by a whole squad of bodyguards. A fat boy ran after the boy and asked him to stop and wait a minute. It was his brother. He ran to him and asked him to guess what he managed to get. Of course, he was interested to know, but it was important that the younger brother did not do anything bad. The boy said it was much better than his bad deeds. He couldn't wait to find out what his brother was talking about. Brother opened his bag and took out Mrs. Sway's yellow panties. After he showed it to his brother, he immediately had to run away. But the boy promised that he would receive his punishment tonight. It would be much better if he did something useful for the family or for society. The guy caught him and threw away his underwear. The younger brother wept because of this and thought about what he could do usefully. He offered him a new occupation: to go to the river bank in the evening. But he did not like this idea very much. Because they had traveled a very long distance and he wanted to get a good night's sleep in the evening. The guy got angry and hit him. Then he started shouting and said that he didn't understand anything. He did not know the most important thing, that in the evenings girls bathe on the banks of the river. The kid's eyes lit up and he immediately changed his decision. The boy promised that this evening he would take him with him as he was already old enough to finally be able to afford such a hobby. He sat by the fire in the evening and asked his sister how her health had been lately. They have been in this place for a long time, but they have not seen anyone here yet. The boy thought that she would lose consciousness as soon as he had this dream. Could they have some other relationship between brother and sister? Another sister scared the boy and said that she wanted to talk to him in the carriage. He needed to come to her. He said to have someone else approach him next time. She thought that he could not help himself because she was very beautiful and began to seem ashamed. But the boy laughed and told her to pretend he hadn't told her anything at all. He moved away from the fire and headed toward Sister Sue's carriage. She called him at a very late hour. Perhaps there was some urgent matter she wanted to talk about. He came as close as possible and carefully opened the curtain that separated the carriage from the street. He greeted him and politely asked if she needed help, or why she had called him. She looked worried and asked the boy to come to her place to talk. He agreed and quickly jumped inside the chariot, closing the curtain behind him. When he got into her carriage, he felt that it was very hot inside, and the boy asked if she was comfortable here, because she was very warmly dressed. He was very uncomfortable because it was very crowded and they were both alone. She sharply raised her hand and purposefully extended it to the boy. Then she grabbed his forearm. He was confused. And she pulled her hand towards her with all her strength. The boy obviously did not expect such a reception and such a conversation. She got up and asked if he had a combat tripod. He fell to the ground and asked his sister why she was pulling him so hard. Then she calmed down a little, bent down to his face and quietly asked if they really weren't his. She knelt down and began to search his entire body. She searched almost everywhere. The boy sat and couldn't move, although you could tell by his face what he was feeling. He decided that a real man could not miss such a chance. He got up from the floor and jumped on her with burning eyes, waiting for reciprocity. She burst out of her seat and hit the guy hard. He thought it was undeserved. He said that she herself called him to her carriage where it was very hot and then hit him. She pretended not to hear his words and started asking for the tripod again. Besides, he must have completely forgotten who the Celestials are. He fell to his knees and began to compliment his sister. He added that she was very beautiful. The sister who gave him the request was sitting by the fire and watching the carriage. It looked as if a bomb had exploded in it. After a long beating, the girl threw him directly into the yard without any conversation. If he was from an ordinary family, then there was no point in her even talking to him. Even the guards saw how he was thrown out of the carriage, and it was difficult for them to contain their laughter. He was lying on the grass and writhing in pain. He was very well received by the girl. Her sister asked if everything was okay with him. Saul stood up sharply and said that everything was fine with him, the main thing was that she did not come near him. Saul didn't understand why Sister Sue was so aggressive and strange today. And why she decided to name him Yun Chankuan. It was not clear at all. But at that moment he seemed to receive a message from heaven. He remembered something. When he woke up from his terrible dream that day, his name was Yun Chankuan there. It was their family treasure. The tripod of the god of war, it gives him infinite power. The master gave it to him and told him that he should protect it and make every effort to do so. Now he understood what she was looking for. But this tripod of war was kept in his soul. Night camp. The flame had already burned down and almost everyone was getting ready for bed. Strange people crept into their camp at night and searched for Saul's tent. They went inside. The boy just had a dream in which someone was tickling him and he was laughing aloud. They had to grab him and one of the men reached for Saul's bed. He felt it and woke up abruptly, but maybe he had another nightmare. He began to ask the bandits what they needed from him and why they had come to his camp. This man still grabbed him by the collar and said that he had broken their rules, so they would tie him up. They started to tie him up and he guessed that it might be because of Sayo. The man warned that if he has something to say, he will be able to say it when the boss comes. He was thrown into the street with his face on the ground. And his younger brother was standing behind the tree at that moment and he saw everything that was happening with Saul. The chief, whom everyone was waiting for, came. He approached the boy and said that he was a scoundrel. This man was very angry. But Saul still did not understand why he was punished. The chief continued his speech and asked the boy if he even understood what they were up to. They also caught his younger brother and tied him with a rope. He began to cry and turned to his sister. He said that he had been looking for her for a long time, but she ran away from him and said that he had become unhooked. Saul watched this acting. The chief said that in the evening he was spying on the girls, and now he says that he was looking for his sister. He gave them one last chance, but if they lied again, the punishment would be tripled. The younger brother's lips began to tremble and he tried to say something, but his words were very difficult to understand. He began to cry again and said that she had a birthmark, but he was afraid to tell about it, so he had to spy. They had been separated for a long time, she probably did not even remember him. Saul appreciated the wonderful intelligence of his brother. The girl was scared because there was actually a mole on her back. But the chief asked him how he knew that it was she who would go to the beach to wash in the evening. He replied that Saul told him. And with this he greatly deceived him. Everyone immediately turned their eyes to him and expected an explanation. He liked the girl, she was very clean and beautiful. That's why he thought that she often bathes. And this meant that she would go to the shore, so he advised Sayo to go there to see. All the girls, servants and workers started laughing at such stupid stories of the boys. They did everything in order not to get punished. The sisters stood by the tree and thought about what they had said. Although it was unlikely that they were telling the truth, it cannot be definitively said that they were lying. One of the workers approached Saul, hugged him from the side, and told him that he had very good taste in girls. The commander-in-chief decided to stop this unnecessary mess. Sayo turned his head and saw a magic arrow in front of him flying by. Fighters began to jump over her and dodge as much as possible. They were mountain robbers, they lived according to the principle of pirates. They attacked small camps located near the mountains. The chief told everyone to take up arms and defend their temporary settlement. The robbers planned to kill them all and divide all the loot among themselves. They also liked beautiful girls. The fighters began to retreat to form a good defense in front of their camp. The chief ordered several people to guard the hostess. And he ordered the rest to follow him and obey all orders. Each of them swore to protect the mistress until his last breath. A big fight started. There were enough robbers that it was difficult to deal with them. Saul told the younger brother that this was their chance to escape while the others were busy with the robbers. But they were tied and he did not understand how they could escape like that. Saul turned his head and noticed the killed soldier who had an axe in his hands. With its help, they could cut this rope and free themselves. Saul began to move towards the axe as far as possible. And so he got to her and began to cut his rope with which his hands were tied. He succeeded and showed his brother that his hands were free. Now it was his turn. The boy took the axe in his hands and asked Sayo to wait a little while he freed him. He made a very strong swing and you could have thought that he wanted to kill the boy. Sayo closed his eyes and began to pray that everything would go well and that his brother would not chop off his head instead of the rope. But Saul was already standing in front of him with a rope in his hands. Everything went much easier than it looked from the outside. She needed to run quickly because the robbers were outnumbered and if they wanted to live they had to go. But Sayo called his brother and said that he had found something. He was angry with his brother because their lives were at stake and if they delayed even a minute, they risked being left without a head on their shoulders. When he returned, he saw that his brother was holding the girl. He said that she was hiding behind the trees and was very scared. She begged not to kill her and said that robbers captured her and brought her here. Sayo thought whose girl among the robbers could it be? She tried to talk to him, but Sayo was focused on other matters. The girl distracted him, so he hit her from above on the head. He came up with the idea that they can capture the robber's girl and use her as bait to make them leave. If everything works out, they will become great heroes who saved the landlady. But it seemed to Saul that she was very unreliable and in general they could find a bunch of similar girls. But Sayo believed very much in his plan, so he asked his brother to simply observe his actions. He grabbed the girl and ran with her towards the robbers. Saul asked to wait, but the boy no longer heard him. He ran to the battlefield and placed his foot on the stone before beginning his monologue. Sayo ordered the robbers to stop and held this girl close to him. Otherwise, he threatened to kill their leader's girlfriend if they didn't stop killing their people. The leader began to laugh, tears began to appear on his face. He couldn't believe that anyone would dare to threaten someone like him. The man sent his thugs to kill him and this girl. No one dared to be so rude and harsh with him. His fighters were very fast, so after a few seconds they were already attacking the boy. Saul saw this and tried to warn his brother. They looked very strong and skillful. Their technique was professional, like that of real masters. Sayo was scared, so he just froze in one place and couldn't think rationally. Saul managed to save them from the attack of robbers. And he grabbed the girl and his brother by the arms and ran into the forest to find shelter there and wait for them to go away. He jumped so high that the girl screamed as if she was in a maternity hospital. When they broke away a bit, Saul told them to run in different directions while he distracted them. But there was a very steep cliff and they simply had nowhere to run. The boy said that there was no choice and they had to move down with the girl. While they were talking, the girl ran away. But Saul was angry that he was changing the subject and the boy was telling their plan. Without thinking, he pushed his younger brother off the cliff. Just at that moment, the boy saw the robbers on the horizon, who quickly found them. One of them decided to immediately use his weapon against the boy. It was a flail that had balls with spikes on both sides. He attacked Saul with it. But it flew by and hit the ground. In a radius of 10 meters, it seemed that a meteorite had fallen. The impact was so powerful. Saul could not even think that they would be so strong. He sat in the shelter while the robbers were preparing for a new attack. Running away was not an option because they would still get him. The boy decided that it was necessary to show them who the real fighter was and ran to attack them. He wanted to sneak up behind him so that he could easily kill one robber with an axe. But he started chanting something like a spell and didn't even try to dodge the blow. Saul reached him and struck him on the neck with the sharp part of the axe. But then he stopped and did not understand what was wrong with his neck. Why the axe bounced off her as if from a trampoline. While he was thinking, the robber sped up and hit him back. The guy didn't even notice the moment he was hit with a knee in the stomach. Blood immediately came out of his mouth. It looked like a computer game. The boy flew away several meters from this blow. He thought that he had already died. His eyes turned white. After the blow, the guy began to remember the past, when his father said that he should not be admired by the Elixir Aishin clan. His eyes widened and glowed red. He felt his power and began to activate his true power, which was bequeathed to him by his parents. A connection with the sky was formed and he began to rise above the earth. The robbers were shocked, they did not understand at all how this could happen. They saw that after some time the portal closed. And they tried to understand what happened to this boy, who was a simple peasant. But then they saw that he returned, but already in a completely different form. He appeared right in front of one of the robbers. He was all on fire, even his cloak and hair were on fire. He held out his hand to the robber and grabbed him by the neck so that now he could not run away. But a minute passed and his neck turned into a barbecue after Saul's hand. He asked if the robbers still wanted to kill him. In any case, he would be happy with all the answers. Because now he was deciding what to do with them and what their future fate would be. Now they posed absolutely no threat to him. He noticed that another robber was standing nearby, but he was not in the same condition as before. He could barely find the strength to hold his weapon because he was so scared and nervous. His legs were shaking with fear and he thought it was a monster. He dared to turn his back on Saul and start running. But this will be the worst decision in his life, because in front of him was no longer the little boy they were hunting. One of the robbers even decided to shoot him with a bow. But Saul jumped up and easily dodged him. After that, he began to catch up with this man in order to strike back. The guy loved justice, so he caught up with him and began to burn him alive. It happened even faster than he planned. Because the temperature of the fire was crazy. A voice calling for help was heard in the middle of the forest. It was Sayo. He was still running away from the robber. He ran almost the entire forest, but he couldn't break away. He was running in unfamiliar places and it was very dark outside, so he did not notice the roots of the tree and tripped over it. And he fell to the ground after a few meters. He could not stand up quickly because he was noticeably overweight. Now he understood that he had serious problems. Because the robber had caught up with him. He was already standing right in front of him. There was nowhere to run, especially since his leg was broken and he could no longer run. The robber swung his sword and all the boy could do was put his hand out in front of him. Saul heard his brother's voice and ran to him as fast as he could. He reached that place and saw that the robber had caught his younger brother. And not just caught, but already prepared a weapon to kill him. He managed to notice only how his brother's face was cut in half. His abilities, which he discovered for himself, did not help him in this situation and he died. Saul's eyes filled with hot blood. He was ready to tear the whole world apart for the sake of his younger brother being alive. The robber was self-confident and he considered Saul another victim that he would destroy. The boy had nothing but revenge on his mind at that moment. He rushed at the robber. Although he was half the size of a man, their swords met in battle. The robber said that he was still ready to forgive such words, but when the little scum attacks him. For what he did with Sayo, the boy was ready for anything. The robber replied that in that case he would be happy to see what he was capable of. When their fight began, Saul managed to get behind the enemy, thanks to his agility. He told the robber to never look down on other people and attacked him from behind. The man did not expect such a development of events at all, and he was so scared for the first time in his life. The boy mercilessly tore it apart and showed how skillfully he wields a sword. His weapon was so sharp that after the blow, the robber's body did not move, even though he was already dead. Saul turned to him to enjoy the moment as he died. At the very beginning, he did not intend to kill him, but he chose this path for himself. And killed his only younger brother Sayo, with whom he grew up and taught him. He was obliged to destroy such a self-righteous bastard. He was sure that the boy would not dare to finish him off because the people of his Lanmushan clan would not leave him alone for the rest of his days. The boy memorized this name in order to destroy this clan completely from future history. Saul turned to his dead brother and said that he would be the first to answer for his death. And without hesitation, he raised his sword and with pleasure pierced the enemy and the murderer of Sayo with it. He didn't even have time to say the last words because it happened so fast. Now the boy got a new challenge in his life. The sky looked like a battlefield after a bloody battle and it was raining heavily. Saul buried his brother and made a grave for him. He will blame himself for his death until the end of his days. He wrote his name on the monument. If only he was stronger, he would have been able to protect him. But he promised to take revenge on every clan member who attacked them. He broke the news that now Saul knows his real name. Actually, his name is Chankuan. Although he didn't know if it was worth telling him now. He decided to ease the tension a little and said that unfortunately Sayo did not have time to find a wife for himself. But he has no reason to be nervous about it, because Saul has promised to find himself several women. Sister Sue came to Sayo's grave. She said that he had very noble desires. He must have already become an ordinary mortal if he talked about such goals. She said that without mental strength, he became very vulgar and behaved like an easygoing boy. This did not beautify him at all. He replied that even considering that she was in this ordinary world, she continued to be so high-minded. It was clear from her face that these words angered her and she was not ready to listen to such nonsense about herself. He added that she had completely forgotten how she had tried to draw his attention to her in the past world. He finally remembered who he really was. But for some reason she didn't feel his power at all. He is Chankuan, although he has no spiritual power at all, but compared to her, he has a lot of love and devotion. She did not understand how his soul could become one with the body of a simple person, even so vulgar. The girl did not allow even the thought of their engagement. But he said that he does not need it at all. He feels very good alone. The girl remained silent, and then noticed something on Saul's body. She jumped out because she saw the war tripod. The guy was much stronger now than the last time she beat him. That's why he grabbed her hand. And asked why she treats him so rudely. Sue demanded that he let go of her hand. She explained this by seeing his battle tripod. He got angry and began to undress, in order to prove that he did not have a tripod. Then he said that if she wanted he could take off his pants as well. But the girl replied that it was better for him to stay away from her. Chankuan tried to understand why the battle tripod was so important to the girl. She said that their clan is from the eastern lands. As soon as someone finds out about its existence, there will be a terrible disaster. That is why it is so important. But since the guy doesn't have what she needs, there was absolutely nothing connecting them anymore. And she hoped that she would never meet him again. He was offended and said that he did not even want to see this sick sister off. If he had the power that Sue talks about, he wouldn't even be interested in it. The moon has risen. Chankuan said goodbye to his brother and left. He repeated constantly that he would definitely take revenge for him and destroy the clan that was directly involved in this. Chankuan pulled his sword from the ground and left. Those robbers did not have long left to walk on this earth. Meanwhile, life flourished in the city of Fenchon. Markets and schools were working. People went about their business and improved the city's situation. In this city there was a military camp, where the best fighters trained. Chankuan was here. He was trying to understand where his spiritual powers had gone. Why Mu was able to remember everything and he couldn't. He tried to remember his vocation by the method of meditation. And now a combat tripod appeared in front of him, which everyone is talking about and so wants to find. The battle tripod helps him cultivate and temper himself more effectively. One short night is compared to a month of hard training. If enough energy of all 5 elements is forcefully placed in this tripod, no one knows what can happen. He was not the only one who was able to get a similar, rare treasure that possesses 5 elements. It is an interesting fact that in these lands people develop the volumes of their spiritual energy in the body. After a long time of training, at the point where the heart is located, a solid body was formed from that energy. It's the same with monsters, the energy inside them can be turned into internal elements to gain immortality. They can also be turned into an elixir to help cultivate. Many people compete with each other for this. It could be a snow monkey on top of an iceberg. In the rainforest, it is an armored bull demon. In the Black Sea, it is a purple scaly python. If he wanted to go fight one of these monsters with his current strength, it would just be certain death. But it was still better than if he were to wander among ordinary mortals. It would be better for him to die and his soul would find peace in the rebirth of an ordinary mortal. The internal alchemical components of monsters are so expensive, and there is no money. The boy was convinced that even the object would not have a peaceful life next to him. A whole night of cultivation with its help raises the mood and tone. The boy, as if after being reborn, knocked down the door of the house and went outside. He reached out and the warm sun in return embraced him with its rays. A new day opens the gates for him. He will definitely succeed. The girl met him near the house and noticed that he woke up very early today. He even looked somehow different, and his face was glowing with joy. He was surprised to see a sister with short hair here. She continued to shower him with compliments and added that he had matured considerably. He replied that he had always been handsome. She had not seen him for only a few days. Had she missed him so much? She laughed and said she needed to ask Saul something. She waited for her brother to give permission and asked if Sayo was her blood brother. He apologized and said they tricked her because they wanted to avoid punishment. But the only thing he wanted to ask was that she not hold a grudge against him now. She was saddened by the fact that he died. The girl could not hold a grudge against him. Why did the girl continue to stand in front of the boy and not go away? She became very shy and shouted a question to Saul. She asked if he loved her. After this question, sweat appeared on his face. Because he was very nervous. This situation was ambiguous. She was a pure and kind girl, he didn't want to hurt her. He said that he actually also lied that he loved her. She didn't believe it. She shouldn't have asked him that. The girl knew that Saul actually liked her. A guy with a burden on his soul told her the truth, but she does not trust him. Although this girl was a storekeeper in the warehouse of alchemical ingredients, perhaps he should use this gift of fate. He turned to her and asked if she had the keys to their mercenary warehouse where the internal elements of monster alchemy were stored. He also asked if the things they had extracted yesterday were still in that warehouse. She replied that the commander had already managed to sell one, but there were still 2 left. She asked why he needed this information. Saul said he had never seen them before and would like her to show him the warehouse. He begged her very much and promised that he would just hold them and put them in their place. No one would even know about it. She agreed, but under no circumstances should you touch them, otherwise they will both be executed. The guy said that there was nothing to be nervous about. Even if he didn't care about his life, he would never dare to offend her. She started to smile and said that she trusted him completely. And so they came to the warehouse. The girl asked Saul not to touch everything in a row. He replied that he understood and did not touch anything at all. The girl called the boy to show the treasures. She opened the box. These were 2 granolas of inner alchemy. They were so beautiful as if they were really a treasure. 2 of these treasures belonged to the commander, but since the buyer offers a very low price, he decided not to sell them yet and keep them for himself. This gold is only found in monsters with a high concentration of internal Ci. He was completely delighted when he saw her closer. She was very beautiful. The inner essence of the monster was so beautiful. The guy snatched it from her hands. The girl asked to look at it more carefully. It is said that the monster's inner essence helps in cultivation. But the monster's inner essence can only be used after the master has made the elixir. While the girl was talking about this item, something started to happen with this item in his hands. The battle tripod simply took and absorbed all of the monster's essence energy. He first tossed it up and then squeezed it tightly in his hand. It was very cool for him. Cultivation would go even faster this way. At this rate, he will soon become much stronger. The girl asked why he was so happy. He said that it was nothing, it was just that he saw the essence of the monster for the first time and was therefore a little overexcited. He wanted to leave, but remembered that there was still a blue one. Therefore, he turned back and asked her to show him as well. It is the inner essence of a water-type monster and it is also very rare. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. A soul can absorb only one of these attributes. It was interesting to see what would happen if you tried to absorb 2 attributes at once. A coward will not be able to advance further. Now he must improve. This is not the time to be afraid. If he does not try to absorb the second attribute, he will never know if it is possible. He held it in his hand for some time and nothing happened. It turns out that with the tripod of his soul it doesn't matter what elements to use. The girl did not understand why he was so happy. He replied that he was simply in a good mood after visiting the warehouse. At this rate, he will soon increase his rank, how could he not be happy about it? Considering the tripod's ability to absorb essence, he only needs to get the right amount and he will definitely reach the 8th rank within 3 months. He 100% came here for a reason. The boy thanked the girl for such a wonderful opportunity to see these historical things. He asked his sister where he could find essence in large quantities. She replied that they can be found at the auction, there are any essences. It was surprising that he did not guess about it himself, because at the auction you can find any object, the only question is the price. They left the warehouse. It was necessary to do it quietly so that no one would notice them. Saul closed the lock on the door. After that, you could go away. The sister asked him if they were going back. The guy said yes. She grabbed his hand and asked him not to call her sister, but to call her Inyan. Local robbers were noticed near the Saul warehouse. They had very unpleasant faces. Looking at them, you could immediately guess who they were. There was so much work in the army that they just needed his help, and he was enjoying life and walking in the forest. He was a representative of the young generation of Lian mercenaries. A level 8 mercenary. He was in love with Inyan, but she did not reciprocate. The girl got scared and grabbed his hand. They blocked their way. Inyan hid behind Saul's body and it was clear on her face that they were uncomfortable with these people. Saul heard that Lian likes Inyan, so he must protect her now. The boy told them that he and Inyan are now a couple in love. He will not be able to interfere with their happiness. This angered him and he asked what right Saul had to claim that she was now his. Somehow, his facial expression suddenly changed. It's not nice to hide your anger behind a smile. It would be better to let it out. Lian became even more aggressive and asked the boy if he was tired of living at all. Ian stood over Saul and told him not to even think about touching him. They called him a scumbag hiding behind his girlfriend's skirt. Lian advised him to stay away from her because he had no right to even stand near her. He ordered him to move away or there would be consequences. Saul said that he didn't want any more trouble, but if Lian was very confident in his abilities, then he would give him that chance in battle, but if he won, then he wouldn't be able to approach Ian at all. The girl was shocked because she knew what power Lian possessed. He told the girl to leave because he himself wanted it. The boy wanted this fight to finally use his powers. When they got closer, Lian asked if he wanted to take his words back. The boy replied that he couldn't be scared by such trash as him. The only thing he regrets is that he will have to defeat him in silence, without witnesses. On the day of the official certification of the mercenaries, that is, in 2 to 3 months, when all the mercenaries will be in the arena, he offered to fight in front of everyone, so that it would be more interesting to trample him in the dirt. Not only does he refuse to fight him now, but he also offers to do it publicly. He agreed because it would be even more interesting that way. There is a lot of talk around the battle. Saul has been looking forward to this day to show him his true abilities. If he so wanted to die in public, then Lian would love to humiliate him in public. But here it is still unknown who will crush whom on the battlefield. The guy grabbed the girl's hand and said that they need to get out of here. Lian said if he tried to escape, he would find him and tear him to pieces. He let him enjoy life a little more. In 3 months he will tear him apart like a yard dog in front of everyone. They were already far enough away from those robbers. Lian asked how he was going to compete with him if he was so much stronger than her. He said that the girl was not worried because he has a very good plan that will help him defeat him confidently in 3 months. By the way, this Lian is quite good, and among the mercenaries, he is one of the strongest. He heard that many girls are running after him, but he asked why Lian is not rushing to him now. He seems to be normal, but last month she and her sister accidentally saw him forcefully undress Suman's sister. After that, they found out about it, but the case was closed, due to the good opinion of the commander about him. He runs from one girl to another, and she does not like such people at all. He is like a wild animal, but the boy was sure that in 3 months even his own mother would not recognize him. But she wondered what would happen if he won this battle. The boy said that he was not considering this option because he was neither a coward nor a weakling. She was sure of him, but she was just very worried. She was very ashamed and bent her head down so as not to look into his eyes. Because he saw her body and must take full responsibility. She ran away. The boy did not have time to stop her and could not find words. Just to get to the auction, he had to spend all his money to buy new clothes. As many as 30 coppers. He went through the auction and everything there was very expensive. Saul did not understand why they were demanding such money. There he accidentally met Sue's sister, who also came to the auction. Not only girls can go shopping. The girl offered Saul to walk around the auction together. She just wanted to pick up a handbag for herself. The boy did not understand why she was so kind to him. Their last meeting ended with her saying that she never wanted to see Saul again. He said that he is no longer Yun Chankuan and the immortal realm. Their conversation was overheard by some guy. Not so much time has passed since their meeting, and he became so insolent. The guy said that the sister was very annoying. This man, who was eavesdropping on their conversation, opened his fan. He approached them and said that this was a very unexpected meeting for him. The girl said that he came at the right time because her husband was insulting her. Saul began to object because he was not her husband. The man asked when Sister Sue managed to have a husband. And also from the mercenaries. Maybe they will become friends. He advanced the monster essence and said it was his welcome gift. The girl said that he was always very generous. The commander of mercenary troops. It was a small thing for him because they had just sold 16 high-grade monster essence spheres. Each of them were level 7 to 8, it brought them a lot of money. Saul overheard their conversation and thought he was a braggart. Ya was very elegant, but as long as her husband was with Sue, she could not love another. It will really not just change her point of view and tastes in men. As soon as she says she wants to be with him, he immediately orders his boys to deal with him. She agreed. Sue really thinks that she will be able to suffocate him so easily. The boy saw that the commander was very handsome and tall. He also had a good position, but he was just a boy. It would not be status-worthy to fight with him. That's why he offered without a fight, just take the girl for himself and that's it. The commander liked the guy's behavior. He really knew how to get out of any situation. The girl was very angry, she was insulted and made a laughing stock. And by the way, he told the commander that this girl is very good in bed, so he would recommend not to get tired very quickly. This is very bad for health. The girl simply burned with a red flame from shame. And the boys mocked her. The commander liked this and began to cling to the girl. She made it clear that she could not be touched. Because she did not allow anyone to do so. Sue used her ability and pushed the commander several meters away. It was a full attack. He landed unsuccessfully and hit a tree. It was even hard to imagine what would happen to the girl after that. He ordered his mercenaries to capture this girl and bring her to him. Because now she will pay for her actions. They listened to the commander and began to carry out the order. Was that all he was capable of? Making mercenaries do the dirty work. She understood that it was necessary to teach these mercenaries and their commander-in-chief. Sue prevented them from attacking first, so she struck and killed 3 mercenaries at once. And so his defense was defeated and she calmly moved towards the commander. He did not expect such a result of events and was even a little scared. But she was not even going to attack the commander, but simply passed him and ran on. Now he had even more questions. Half of his mercenary bodyguards were destroyed. Nearby buildings were damaged. But as it turned out, she also killed the master. Her blow was so subtle that it left almost no traces. The rest of his mercenaries rushed to her for revenge, but it was obviously a bad idea. In her eyes, you could see the death that she carries. Whoever offends her will be severely punished and will receive much more damage. She urged the mercenaries to attack her if their lives were worthless to them. She used the power of atomization. It is a very dangerous ability. No one could even think that she possessed such power. Against her background, they looked like defenseless ants running and not knowing what to do next. But there is no need to do anything because their fate is death. They died one by one with a very high speed. These attacks were not noticeable at all, because the abilities possessed by Sue allowed her to destroy enemies without harming herself. Those mercenaries who remained alive finally understood that the only true solution was to try to escape. Although this did not guarantee safety. While she was taunting the mercenaries, Chankuan approached the commander's corpse and took the alchemical essence of fire from him. But the girl was determined to take her gift from him. Because it is wrong. She said he completely smeared her and tarnished her reputation as much as possible. She wanted to kill him, probably more than the commander for his vulgarity in public. The boy tried to calm his sister, but it was not easy to do. So he decided to just run away. It was really a good decision to not develop a conflict. But it was not the end. Because she was able to catch up with him. Chankuan said that she cheated on him first and he just decided to pay back the debt. She had already killed a person, he suggested that she stop there so as not to cause problems for herself and others. The guy said that he didn't have time to have fun with her. He had more important things to do. She promised to deal with him next time. After a long journey, Chankuan still managed to get to the auction. It looked very prestigious and the boy expected that he would find here what he really needed. He had a great argument to strengthen his spiritual energy. The Chun clan auction house, despite the very large number of people, had never had an incident here. Since the surname of the mayor of the city is Chen. Chankuan went inside and put the bag on the table. He said he wanted to check his goods. The man approached him and agreed to take a look. The guy asked him to estimate the value of this thing. The man replied that the essence for a level 5 immortality elixir would cost 16 gold. The guy insisted that it was a premium essence and they were only offering 16 gold for it. If he thought they were offering too little, he could keep it. But the fact is that the mercenaries sold them 15 of the same essences and they paid them 100 gold for each. All those essences were at least level 7, and what he offered was not even close to them. But they were all level 5, was he so old that he couldn't understand that? He was warned that such talk was forbidden at their auction. He agreed to pretend that he fell for their raffle. The guy was just very nice, so he decided to tell the whole truth. The man said that he has been working here for decades and has never made a mistake. How dare he claim that he was deceived? They decided not to argue, but simply to take them to the square to conduct an examination in front of everyone. The assistant turned to the elder and said that if he is right, there will be a very big noise. But the man was confident in his experience and asked to call all the elders and the mayor. The guy was satisfied that everything turned out the way he wanted. After a while, a woman came out with bodyguards and asked who claimed that her essence in the auction house was fake. Chankuan generally thought that the mayor was some kind of duck health. She turned to the boy and asked him to explain where he got such information. He replied that he did not claim that it was a fake. He was talking about the fact that the essence of a low sample was mistaken for a higher one. The boy could not hide such a lie, and therefore, despite the risk of becoming dead, he told them the truth. The mayor asked him to stop praising himself. And the reputation of her auction was at the highest level. He might be trying to spoil her, and if it turns out that he has been lying all this time, then he will not be able to escape punishment. He replied that they should not worry because he is an ordinary boy, and if he was not so sure of his words, then he would not have started to do such a thing. He just wants to see if they are willing to take the risk and refute his words in front of everyone. She asked to bring these 15 essences to the hall for a detailed review and analysis. After some time, while they were prepared and brought, everyone was waiting. And so they brought all 15 essences that the house bought, and they gave him the opportunity to test them as he pleased. But if he dares to spread rumors after that, her family will not ignore it. He needed it not here, but on the square, so that everyone could see it. Otherwise, he would do everything to ensure that nothing remained of her family's reputation. On the contrary, they were ready to show and prove their undoubtedly perfect reputation of this auction house. The woman called the elders to go to the square. And they will show that people like them are wasting their time to tarnish their reputation. They went out into the yard and began to beat the gong and announce the examination of the goods. The scam of the mercenaries from the Flame Squad in forging the essences of immortality was revealed. The boy thought it was very funny and it brought him great pleasure. People have already started discussing them. That members of their families have recently cooperated with fraudsters. The people were urged not to draw conclusions until the examination was conducted. They assured that no one would be able to spoil the glory of their auction house. And if everything turns out as this young man says, then they are ready to bear the punishment. Chankuan promised if the auction house's product was of high quality. He is ready to give his immortal essence as an apology. And they will be able to do whatever they want with him. But he prepared something special for them. This guy couldn't claim any facts if he wasn't sure of himself. He asked what would happen if it was confirmed that the essences were of poor quality. The mayor said that if at least one of the 15 is 5 samples, then she will apologize to the whole city and bow to him. And he will also be able to choose one of the treasures of the auction house as an apology. He agreed, but asked to also call the respectable people of the city to judge them as well. Because it will be unfair if only her auction will make the decision. The woman agreed. An elderly man came on the stage with a cane. He decided to thank the boy, because it had been a long time since their city had been so alive and active. The mayor asked why Elder Du had come here. If Elder Du agrees, then she is forced to call the rest. She decided to ask Elder Du to do the evaluation. The boy began to worry whether the elder would be able to destroy his whole plan. He looked very suspicious, but it was hard to tell how he felt. To begin with, he decided to evaluate each essence separately. For this, it was necessary to wait a little. 4 pieces were from the 9th sample, and 6 pieces from the 8th sample. 5 pieces of the 7th sample, that's all 15 pieces of immortality essences, and all of them are of high quality. Now it's the boy's turn. The elder was also curious to know how these essences could become of low quality. He asked to watch him. It was a high-quality fake, the large amount of energy just covers the elixir. But inside lies the true value of the essence of immortality. They thought it was ridiculous and that it was impossible. The mayor said that she had never heard of such an absurd thing. He needed to prove that it was a fake and not to talk. He decided to simply absorb some of the energy of this essence as if it was energy from the surface. After 10 minutes of manipulation, the boy finally finished and turned to the audience. He asked to look at this essence now and tell him what kind it was. It was enough for them to look even from a normal distance. They were shocked and confused. The elders, who had been associated with the auction all their lives, could not identify the sample. The mayor also looked at the essence and she was forced to admit that it was indeed the 5th sample. The whole audience began to chant and show their dissatisfaction. They could not accept that the auction house was deceived by fraudsters. It was the most conservative and responsible institution in the city, which everyone trusted. The mayor said that her auction house has existed for hundreds of years and has always had a good name. If there is a mistake, they always recognize it with dignity. She asked to conduct further examination and as a result, they will make a joint decision. The fight for justice was his mission, so he cannot give up his debt and will continue. He extracted the next essence and performed an absolutely identical operation. And he could claim with full responsibility that it was a fake. They could not believe that all the next 14 pieces could also be fakes. And so the last essence remained. There was a very powerful energy. He finished checking it and the color of the pellet dimmed. He remembered that the mayor had said that if at least one of the 15 essences was fake and it turned out to be 5 samples, then he won. The assessment of the quality of essences has been completed. The mayor of the city never broke her word. The elder said that they were unlucky with the mercenaries, probably they all find ways to cheat. The elder turned to the boy and asked him to evaluate another essence lying in the palace and after that they would talk. The boy thanked everyone, but they confined him among the Storm Army mercenaries. He is willing to check their elixirs for fake for free. The mayor showed another essence and asked to help them test it. If the mayor of the city himself asks him, he will look at her lovingly. He went to the table and removed the handkerchief that covered the essence. The guy was shocked, it was something incredible. He saw the essence of immortality with extraordinary power. Meng saw from his reaction that this elixir was really worth attention and it was unusual. Such essences were very rare, it would take a long time to get one. It seems that all he could do was play along and respond with a trick after a trick. The guy took a good look at the essence and confidently said that this pill is not fake. The mayor thanked her and said that she felt better. Chankuan recalled what he had been told if even one of the 15 inner magic beast pills was fake. Then he can choose any treasure in the auction house as an apology. He wants this particular pill. They were shocked because it was the most important thing in their vault. The elder could not stand it and began to threaten the boy. The mayor said that she always keeps her promises, so this pill now belongs to him. The boy was happy. He thanked the mayor and everyone who was in that square. He said if they had pills to check, he was always ready to help, but now he had to leave them. The elder tried to stop him, but it was no use. After he left, the woman ordered the assistant to assemble an army near the storm group. She couldn't accept being humiliated like this. She had to pay with Chankuan. And now her group of fighters was already standing under the door in the grouping of the storm. As the guy expected, they came very quickly. The elder demanded the return of the pill or promised to kill the entire group of mercenaries. He did not care that his hands would be covered in blood. This pill was the most valuable thing they had. The commander asked not to accuse people without evidence. He was very aggressive and determined to defend his opinion and get even with the offenders for killing his son. His daughter and her mercenary lover killed his son on the street. Everyone saw them. He demanded that the commander give them up immediately. The commander answered just as rudely, and added that his daughter could not be with a mercenary. This old man was as respectable as his daughter. One of the fighters offered the master to find this person and interrogate him in public, so that they would not all get hurt. But the commander could not guess who the mercenary could be. Only Saul was not with them, so most likely it was him. The commander asked to bring Saul to him. Lion ran out and said he had a problem in the toilet, so he couldn't come out here. Saul did not understand why this girl had come and lied. He wanted to see a little more of this fun. The commander asked not to cover him and ordered to bring him here, to solve an important issue. The girl did not stop to protect him. She really loved him, so she tried to help. Although she was not very bright, she had only good intentions. Branches began to crack and a sound could be heard as if someone was approaching them from the forest. Something like a wild boar. The master returned and did not expect to see him. But it was Saul. He came back alive to finally see him. His whole body was scratched and stained. But he didn't understand why Saul had come alone. He fell at his feet and began to shout that they had serious problems. The master began to ask where he came from. He said his sister Lion was being bullied. The master and even his fighters could not believe it. That someone would dare to raise a hand on his daughter. He tried his best to stop them, but they beat him. Sue's sister asked him to go shopping with her, but Yao met them and started clinging and molesting his sister. She couldn't stand it and killed him. After that, the sister ran away and now he doesn't know where she is. Maybe because of her new reputation, she might have died. It was no wonder that he hadn't seen his daughter all day. This argument was enough for him to destroy them and tear them to pieces. He was ready to do anything for his child. He would never allow her to be bullied, and now he understood what had happened. He attacked Yao and vowed to slaughter his entire family. He demanded that he show his sword technique even though it would not save him. When the master attacked Yao, the ground split apart like lithospheric plates. The battle was so intense that nearby trees were uprooted. The commander was very angry. The family is the only reason for him to get out of control. But Yao wasn't going to give up either. His son's blood was on his daughter's hands. They fought to the last, even managed to talk during the battle. When they merged in battle, it was impossible to see them because of the great accumulation of energy. Lion was also ready to avenge her mistress and lay down her life for her honor if necessary. But Saul grabbed her hand and prevented her from entering the battle. She began to break out and said that she must avenge her mistress. Saul said that she was alive and he had lied. She simply left the city. But the girl asked why he lied. But the thing was, those two would have chopped him into little pieces if he hadn't lied and made up the story. He asked her to stay here and not interfere. Let them fight and solve the issue among themselves. In the midst of the fight, the mayor appeared. She watched at first, but then told her to stop in a fairy tone. She had one unfinished business with Saul, who, with the help of a trick, was able to knock the immortality pill out of her. The commander could not understand why she had come. If she is here, then there is probably some big problem that affects them all. She turned to Yao and expected him to explain. Her auction house was humiliated by the whole city, and he asked such stupid questions. She ordered his arrest. And the mayor added that they would talk in the auction house. But he denied it and assured her that there had been some misunderstanding. One of the soldiers asked the commander that this time the mercenaries of the detachment had started the fire. He replied that he himself did not understand anything and did not have any information. He asked Saul if he was telling the truth. The guy said yes. He doesn't know where Sue's sister is now. The commander ordered all his squads and mercenaries to go in search of his daughter. Su Ho ordered his men to search the entire city. But they failed to find the sister, as she had fled the city a long time ago. Using the opportunity, Chankuan took Lion with him to the mountains, in order to prepare for the battle with Yen. In order to remain invincible, he needed to cultivate a lot. As for Sister Su, he didn't even look for her. Lion noticed that Saul did 32 times more than last time. She asked him to rest. He practiced and exerted himself in order to become even stronger. In order to confirm his status as invincible, he must train several times a day. He succeeded and reached the 5th stage of body purification. He performed completely different types of training. They were for the development of endurance and for the development of strength. He also worked on technique. And over the mental mind as well. He ran 50 kilometers every day in order to keep his body in good shape. He also practiced his magical abilities and fighting at a distance. His skills improved every day. All he did was train, rest and eat. And as it turned out later, he did all this for a reason and finally achieved his goal. He has reached the 7th stage of body purification. It was very dark that night. Every day was the same for him. In the evening, he lit a fire to cook a delicious dinner. This was necessary so that the body could fully recover after such grueling training. Lion cooked especially for him, she helped him in everything and supported him. He ate her food with great pleasure and it was always delicious. As he sat, his legs were shaking from exhaustion, but he could only see the ultimate goal and he could not be stopped. Lion asked why he was training so hard. She asked maybe we shouldn't be in such a hurry. The boy began to have memories of his childhood and close people. He was so weak and always because of that he lost to everyone. But now he doesn't want to lose anymore. Exercising was much more useful than just doing something obscure.